Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back. Happy spring in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm excited. I am not so excited about daylight savings time or the pollen, but hey, you gotta take the good with the bad, right? Today, I want to talk a little bit about the sun transit we're in, which is gate 25, which is the spirit of the self, and a concept that has been on my mind for a while, since late last fall. My astrology teacher brought up this concept about karmic energetic entanglement. And when we look at the 25, the gate of the spirit of the self, when we turn to the gene keys, the shadow is constriction, the gift is acceptance, and the Siddhic state is universal love. And that sounds, especially when you're like, oh, universal love. But we're not here to just admire the poetry, if you will, of all of that. We're asking a deeper, a more grounded question. And this episode is influenced by some of the discussions I had about the episode I did last week around the horsemen, and also a Substack post that I did around the sacred metal. And a lot of discussion was, well, how do I know when to act, when to fight, and then when to walk away? And it's something that I've thought about a lot over the years, especially over the past year or so. I've said on the podcast, know what hills you're willing to die on, but visit those hills regularly. As your consciousness changes, your opinion might change. And when my astrology teacher explained this, I was like, wow, that's a pretty powerful teaching. Because not all action is empowering, and not all silence is surrender. So we're going to unpack this through this lens of this concept of karmic yoga, Celtic sovereignty, the frequency of gate 25, to sort of help you move through this week's energy with a little bit more clarity. Like, we've got a couple more days of gate 25, and then we move into the 17, which should give you a more expanded focus, like widen your view a little bit. So gate 25 is the gate of the spirit of the self, and it's in the G center, and it governs things like love, direction, identity, but not like the small egocentric identity. This gate asked, can you live from a place beyond your personal pain? Can you let your heart stay open even when life doesn't go as planned? Can you act and resist and walk away or love from a place of soul, not survival? And most of us think, I'm sure, or at least we try to believe, that we're living from a place of love, but we're actually living from a place of patterned reactions. And, we resist from a place of trauma or wounding. We speak from anger. We walk away in resistance because we're resenting something. And that's not spiritual sovereignty. That's just karmic looping, if you will. So let's break down the frequency band of 25. And it's really about emotional and spiritual alchemy when the sun is in this transit. At the shadow frequency, we experience constriction, and this is a heart that's closed, it's a love that's withheld, it's a grief that hardens us. It comes often from trauma, life experiences that made us believe that it's not safe to stay open. And in this state, we are reactive. We fight because we're hurting. We withdraw because we're afraid. And every time we do that, we reinforce that pattern. Now, at the gift frequency, when we move into acceptance, this is where the healing begins. We don't force this is not about forcing yourself to stay positive. Instead, we surrender to life's messiness, right? And acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means that we stop fighting reality. And from that more grounded presence, we can choose our battles with discernment and wisely. And in the acidic state frequency, we open up to universal love. And that's not that airy, fairy, fluffy kind. It's the being able to stand there in a discomfort and still have the ability to hold the paradox, the grief, the beauty, the brutality without collapsing. And here, action arises spontaneously, clearly, without attachment. And that is the energy of what some would call the archetype of the sacred warrior, the one who fights only when it's in alignment with soul's truth and walks away without resentment when it's not. Now, my astrology teacher has studied Indian practices for quite some time. And he was talking about there is a teaching, act without attachment to the fruits of action. And he says that this is karmic, something along the lines of karmic yoga in a nutshell. You do what is yours, but you don't cling to the outcome. And he explained that there's this word in Sanskrit, and I'm not going to try to say it because I would find it disrespectful that I have not been able to master this word. When you react with anger, obsessed over injustice, or fixate on changing someone, you enter a karmic entanglement. You take on someone's energetic debt. This is the concept of this. You tie yourself to their karma, and you guarantee that the unresolved tension will loop back around, maybe in this lifetime, probably in this lifetime, I think, and maybe in the next. And that doesn't mean that you resist injustice. It means that you resist from a place of clarity, not personal wounding. And that is really the medicine of Gate 25. You fight when it's clean. You speak when it's rooted in truth. You walk away when the thread is no longer yours to carry. And I was curious if there was an equivalent in the Celtic wisdom. And there's not an equivalent word per se, but there is, when we shift to a Celtic lens, there's wisdom. The wisdom is found in knowing what is yours to carry and what is not. And the Celts held a really deep reverence for what they called, it's WYRD, which is pronounced, as I understand it, weird. The web of fate. Every choice you make weaves a new thread, but if you interfere with another's thread out of guilt, obligation, misplaced saviorhood, you tangle your own path. And there is this concept of, when you come into this world, you have a path, and you are guided on what battles are yours to fight. And taking on something that's not yours could lead to an entanglement or a delay or a misalignment of your path. And so when you're in a moment of conflict, you can ask, is this part of my thread? Is this my soul work, or is this a distraction in disguise? And the sovereign soul, like the sacred warrior, knows the difference. You don't get hooked in by every single thing you see on the news. You follow your own thread, and that's even if others don't understand it. And so I was like, okay, what are some like basic questions that I can ask myself and you can ask yourself of like, is this mine or not, right? So some of those questions, and I ask myself these on a pretty regular basis when something comes up. Is it clean? You're not acting from reactivity, resentment, or a need to prove something. Number 2, is it yours? The situation resonates as a deep inner truth, not an external should. Number 3, is it coming from love or fear? Even if it's fierce love or a love that says no more, the source is rooted in wholeness, not wounding. Hear me again, not wounding. Would you still do it if no one ever saw, validated, or agreed with you? Agreed with you. These are tough questions. That's your soul speaking. That's your sacred yes, right? So Gate 25 in its highest expression teaches us that the most powerful love is not clingy or reactive. It's not the kind that rails against the world for not being fair. It's the love that says, I trust the thread of my life. I'll act if I act when it's time. I'll be still when it's not. And I'll love even if the world doesn't make it easy. So, part of this week is when the sun is shining through this frequency, which will be the next couple of days. Where am I feeling entangled? Where am I reacting from the pain? Where am I being invited into sacred detachment? Not to give up, but to return to myself. Like, those are some questions to ask yourself. Because the true warrior doesn't fight everything. They fight what matters. They use discernment. They walk away from the rest. And they're fighting clean. I'm currently reading James Hillman's A Terrible Love of War. It's a very interesting read for those that are curious about our collective attraction and aversion to the archetypal themes in war. And one more thing, because this is where Gate 25 gets misunderstood, I think. When the world feels too heavy, excuse me, too painful or too broken, the temptation to slip into a burn it all down, and we're in Aries season right now, so that's everything's feeling the heat. I mean, the month of March, even though it was Pisces season, there's a lot of heat in March. That mindset can feel really powerful, and sometimes, let's be honest, it feels justified. But here is the truth. That kind of destruction isn't the same as a sacred death. Because the sacred death gets us to the rebirth. A burn it all down mentality does not. And there are natural seasons for death and rebirth in the Celtic tradition and shamanic practices, and in Gene Keys we honor the cycle of letting go, composting, and surrender. But those are soulful, intentional deaths, not reactive implosions where we turn to when we're tired, we're heartbroken, we're disillusioned, we're acting from fear and survival. That burn it all down energy comes from the shadow. It is a form of constriction masquerading as liberation. Gate 25 teaches us to create from an open heart, not a scorched one. It's not avoiding the death. But it's not glorifying the destruction for destruction's sake. Instead, it asks, what wants to be born through you right now? What is asking to be tended, not torched? The true revolution is often quiet and rooted and creative, because otherwise you get more of the same bullshit. So when you act from the place of that, your choices, your work, your presence become part of a healing nature, not the harm. And a lot more joy in it too. We got a lot of chaos going on right now, but we also have a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity to do things in a different way. A lot of astrology that's supporting that. But it needs to come from a place of discernment and creativity and work those little moments of joy in there as well. So that's it for today. If this landed with you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Reach out, share the episode, tag me with your insights. Next week is my birthday week, so yes, we are going to have some sort of fun episode, I promise. We've been heavy. I mean, March has been a lot, right? This year's been a lot. March has really been a lot. So until then, though, find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.